this ancestral heartbreak transmission, releasing ancient locks and limits to love. And as always, open body, open mind. Focusing on the breath. On the in-breath is the invitation of light from the universe around you, the great star nation. Breathing light into the bones, blood, cells of your body. And on the out-breath, the purging and releasing of lower energies, sending it back into the light, back to the universe. Allowing more space in your energy fields. Following that cycle of breath. The in-breath, the invitation of light into the chakra system, from crown to base. Light into that central channel. Anywhere you're holding lower energies from the 3D matrix, the 3D world, surrendering it back for light. On the out, allowing more space in your energy. Serve you and are not aligned with your path. On the out breath, surrendering back to the universe, back to the light. Allowing more light and space in the physical body and all of your energy fields. And I call your team in spirit the highest light resonance. Your highest self, the monadic self, the oversoul.
Wow!
All specialist teams and stellar races working with you. Come be with you now. Come be with you now. And breathe openly. Archangels of the horizontal plane, beginning in the east with Raphael, Archangel of Air. The symbol of this angel, a crystal wand. And the energy, emerald green fire. Inviting that fire into space to hold your personal space. The south is Michael, Archangel of the element of fire. The symbol of this angel is a sword of flaming blue light. The energy, electric blue fire. Calling that angel in to hold the space, your personal space. And to the west is Gabriel, Archangel of Water. This angel is a silver chalice. Energy is diamond like fire. Find that fire like water to shadows in your energy field. Or shadows out of your personal space that can be released now. Breathe. The fourth angel, Uriel of the North, Archangel of Earth. The symbol, a golden pentacle. And the energy of ruby red fire. Inviting that fire into the bones, blood, and cells of your body. Four angels, four energies, and open. And let's call the archangels of the vertical plane, Metatron and Sandalphon. Inviting light down from the great central sun through the stargate of our sun, down into the structure of this building, the building you're seated in. Into the walls, floor, ceiling. Closing off the space to lower frequency interference. Bring that energy down through the torso to the heart, through the head, the throat, the chest to the heart, anchoring into the heart. Allowing all chakras from the heart upwards to align with the great central sun, and breathe. And let's call to Sandalphon from the crystalline grid of the earth below to bring up that diamond white crystalline light up into the space you're in. Grounding the room you're in and all energies in the room. Grounding your energetic body deep into the crystalline grid of the earth. Open the inner channel. Open the inner channel. Aligning you with heaven and earth. Heaven and earth. Let's also invite Archangel Azrael. And archangels holding the blueprint of rose quartz crystal. Also, angels holding the blueprint of wild white rose. Also, solar angels. Also, angels of love. Breathe, and now we're going to work with one line, one of your ancestral lines, either the mother line or the father line. Which line needs to be cleared now? Just get a sense or feeling. And whichever line is chosen, for the higher self of either your mother or father, depending on the line that's chosen, and call all of the deep ancestors of that line. And then ask your higher self to open the doorway of light in your energy field, whether in front of you, to the left of you, or right of you. A doorway of light, or perhaps a regular doorway of any color, shape. Ancient, futuristic, contemporary doorway. Trust your first impressions. When you sense that doorway, stand in front of the doorway and describe it to yourself. The shape of it, color of it. Opening your inner senses, your sense of seeing, shape, form. Your sense of hearing, sound and silence. Your sense of touch, of intuiting, of knowing, of feeling. Your sense of smelling and tasting. Really notice this door with all of your senses. On the other side of this door is a landscape representing the energies of the bloodline you have chosen. And this landscape will also be a reflection of the love or lack of love in the bloodline. It will be a reflection of the limits or expansion of love in the bloodline. The landscape may appear as green or fertile, perhaps watery or desert, perhaps mountainous, perhaps dark or chaotic, perhaps messy or otherworldly. Reach out and touch the door and feel the door or that portal of light with your hands. gently step through the door into the landscape, looking down at your feet. Noticing you're standing on solid ground or light. And allow the landscape to rise up around you. Noticing the colors, the forms, the feeling of this landscape. If you have any negative agreements, vows, oaths, including religious agreements or broken promises that relate to love or relate to limits to love, including any old marriage vows in the bloodline that negatively touch your current reality, call all of those agreements before you as scrolls or parchments. When you're ready, pick them up, rip them up, and throw them in the light of the great central sun. Burning them through all minds, all bodies, all timelines, all dimensions. Releasing any energies binding you to these negative agreements. Any old dramas, or any old pain or suffering, any old limits. Release all of it in the light of the great central sun. Allowing yourself to feel lighter and clearer. And take a few steps into that landscape, deeper into the landscape. And let's call Metatron, Sandalphon, Michael, and Azrael to open a portal of light in the midst of this landscape. And this portal may feel like a brilliant doorway of light, or a great vortex of light. And now is the invitation to release all lower, stuck souls, stuck beings, stuck energies, stuck objects in this landscape. Sending them all through the portal or vortex of light. Calling any stuck ancestor, telling them it's time to leave the shadows of this world, it's time to move into the light. There is no punishment, there is only love and support for you on your journey, your soul's journey of evolution. This is an opportunity for many stuck souls on the bloodline to be released back to the mind. On the other side of the doorway, many angels holding them and leading them to temples of healing. And while that's happening, let's call solar angels to enter the landscape. To begin clearing old energies and issues the bloodline may be holding. Dense beliefs, stories, programs such as I'm flawed, unlovable, not deserving of love, not enough, not worthy enough, not attractive enough, not allowed to be happy or fulfilled, the fear of being vulnerable or taking a risk in love, fear of being hurt, fear of being betrayed, jilted, or abandoned. The belief or fear that love does not last, that love will end in tears. The belief or story that I cannot be happy without a partner. And a very deep belief that I have been abandoned by God, Goddess, or what it is. Falling now on solar angels, clearing any lower energies relating to abandonment, betrayal, heartbreak, ancestral unhappy marriages, ancestral unwanted pregnancies, programs of unfaithfulness, or guilt or shame, old patterns of frustration, not being with a person that was truly loved, perhaps programs of a loss of a romantic partner through war or disease or some other misfortune. The program of feeling sexually incompatible with the person you're with. Ancestral narcissism. The energy of fearing the person you're with. Programs of helplessness, powerlessness. Ancient oppressive duty. Programs of sexual perversion or incest in the bloodlines. Program of unforgiveness. Violence in any marriage or cruelty in any marriage in the bloodline. Sacrifice. Martyrhood. Feeling that partnership or marriage is a service, a duty. Old religious programs, including the belief that the flesh is sinful. Falling on solar angels to clear all of this, including any ancestral beliefs or judgments connected to cultural, racial, or gender stereotypes. Calling on all solar angels to clear all of these old programs out of the landscape. Seeing them disappear through the portal. Or out, perhaps into the sky and beyond, releasing to the light of the sun. Inviting solar angels to clear all programs of black magic and curses in the bloodlines relating to heartbreak and the blocking of love or the limiting of love. Just allowing solar angels to clear all of these old programs in the landscape. You may see them as old clouds of energy or mists of energy that are dissipating, releasing. As the solar angels work, you may see a brilliant light in this landscape, clearing and cleansing and uplifting the whole landscape. When you're ready, closing the portal of light, asking Metatron, Sandford, Michael, and Azrael to close that portal of light. Allowing the solar angels to step back. Let's invite the angels holding the energy of wild rose, wild white rose, into the landscape. Beginning to transmit this energy into the landscape. uplifting the landscape with this energy, this beautiful energy. Also the energy of rose quartz crystal. The angels holding rose quartz crystal into the landscape. Beginning to channel light into any void spaces. Going deep into the earth, filling the earth with light. Finally, a call to the deep ancestors who are beyond all pain and suffering to enter the landscape. Releasing all old, lower 3D energies, allowing for the deeper ancestors, those who exist in 5D and beyond, to come into the landscape. They come to restore a higher frequency of love and joy to the bloodline. Expanding the sense of safety, stability, connection, color, warmth, abundance, and fertility in this landscape. Expanding the light. also let's invite angels of love to expand the energy of love in this landscape. Dissolving all blocks to love. And just notice the landscape becoming brighter, lighter, more stable, more solid, more beautiful. Let's ask the angels of love to send the transmission back in time. Healing old programs of pain and limitation in the bloodline. Sending that transmission back into time. Back through generations and generations. Releasing what can be released. Opening what can be opened. When you're ready, thanking all beings in the landscape. Ancestors, angels, team spirit. And turn, come back to that original portal of light, that original doorway. Step through the doorway. close the doorway behind you. Coming back to your body. Take a breath in your body. Let's thank all archangels holding the horizontal plane. Uriel, Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, releasing them with love and thanks. Archangels of the vertical force plane, Metatron and Sandtron, releasing them with thanks. Archangel Azrael, releasing this archangel with thanks. All angels holding the blueprint of rose quartz crystal, and all angels holding the blueprint of wild white rose, releasing those angels with thanks. All solar angels and angels of love, releasing those angels with thanks. Thanking all ancestors. Coming back to your body. This transmission is offered to you as always with love and blessings. Love and blessings. this ancestral heartbreak transmission, releasing ancient blocks and limits to love. And as always, open body, open mind. Focusing on the breath. On the in-breath is the invitation of light from the universe around you, the great star nation. Breathing light into the bones, blood, cells of your body. And on the out-breath, a purging and releasing of lower energies, sending it back to the light, back to the universe. Allowing more space in your energy fields. Following that cycle of breath. The in-breath, the invitation of light into the chakra system. From crown to base. Light into that central channel. Anywhere you are holding lower energies from the 3D matrix, the 3D world, surrendering it back to the light on the out breath, allowing more space in your energy field. The third breath, inviting light into your auric field, all layers, levels, and dimensions. The auric field surrounding the physical body. Anywhere you picked up lower frequency energies that do not serve you, that are not aligned with your path. On the out breath, surrendering back to the universe, back to the light. Allowing more light space in the physical body and all of your energy fields. And I call your team in spirit the highest light resonance, your highest self, the monadic self, the oversoul, all 5D helpers, guides, angels, archangels, specialist teams and stellar races working with you. Come be with you now. Come be with you now. And breathe and open. Let's call the archangels of the horizontal plane, beginning in the east with Raphael, archangel of air. The symbol of this angel, a crystal wand. And the energy, emerald green fire. Inviting that fire into space to hold your personal space. And breathe. To the south is Michael, archangel of the element of fire. The symbol of this angel is a sword of flaming blue light. The energy, electric blue fire. Calling that angel in to hold the space, your personal space. Breathe and open. And to the west is Gabriel, Archangel of Water. The symbol of this angel is a silver chalice. And the energy is diamond white fire. Invite that fire like a waterfall of light, washing away all shadows in your energy field. All shadows out of your personal space that can be released now. Breathe. The fourth angel, Uriel of the North, Archangel of Earth. The symbol, a golden pentacle. And the energy of ruby red fire. Inviting that fire into the bones, blood, and cells of your body. Four angels, four energies led on. And let's call the archangels of the vertical plane, Metatron and Sandalphon. Inviting light down from the great central sun through the stargate of our sun, down into the structure of this building, the building you're seated in. Into the walls, floor, ceiling. Closing off the space to lower frequency interference. Bring that energy down through the torso to the heart, through the head, the throat, the chest to the heart, anchoring into the heart. Allowing all chakras from the heart upwards to align with the great central sun, and breathe. And let's call to Sandalphon from the crystalline grid of the earth below to bring up that diamond white crystalline light up into the space you're in. Grounding the room you're in and all energies in the room. Grounding your energetic body deep into the crystalline grid of the earth. Open the inner channel open the inner channel. Aligning you with heaven and earth, heaven and earth. Let's also invite Archangel Azrael. And archangels holding the blueprint of rose quartz crystal. Also, angels holding the blueprint of wild white rose. Also, solar angels. Also, angels of love. Breathe, and now we're going to work with one line, one of your ancestral lines, either the mother line or the father line. Which line needs to be cleared now? Just get a sense or feeling. And whichever line is chosen, call the higher self of either your mother or father, depending on the line that's chosen, and call all of the deep ancestors of that line. And now ask your higher self to open the doorway of light in your energy field, whether in front of you, the left of you, or right of you. The doorway of light, or perhaps a regular doorway of any color, shape. Ancient, futuristic, contemporary doorway. Trust your first impressions. When you sense that doorway, stand in front of the doorway and describe it to yourself. The shape of it, the color of it. Opening your inner senses, your sense of seeing, shape, form. Your sense of hearing, sound, and silence. Your sense of touch, of intuiting, of knowing, of feeling. Your sense of smelling and tasting. And really notice this door with all of your senses. On the other side of this door is a landscape representing the energies of the bloodline you have chosen. And this landscape will also be a reflection of the love or lack of love in the bloodline. It will be a reflection of the limits or expansions of love in the bloodline. The landscape may appear as green or fertile, perhaps watery or desert, perhaps mountainous, perhaps dark or chaotic, perhaps messy or otherworldly. Reach out and touch the door and feel the door or that portal of light with your hands. feel it, and when you're ready, step through the door into the landscape, looking down at your feet. Noticing you're standing on solid ground or light. And allow the landscape to arise up around you. Noticing the colors, the forms, the feeling of this landscape. If you have any negative agreements, vows, oaths, including religious agreements or broken promises that relate to love or relate to limits to love, including any old marriage vows in the bloodline that negatively touch your current reality, call all of those agreements before you as scrolls or parchments. When you're ready, pick them up, rip them up, and throw them in the light of the great central sun. Burning them through all minds, all bodies, all timelines, all dimensions. Releasing any energies binding you to these negative agreements. Any old dramas or any old pain or suffering, any old limits. Release all of it in the light of the great central sun. Allowing yourself to feel lighter and clearer. And take a few steps into that landscape, deeper into the landscape. Let's call Metatron, Sandalphon, Michael, and Azrael to open a portal of light in the midst of this landscape. And this portal may feel like a brilliant doorway of light, or a great vortex of light. And now is the invitation to release all lower, stuck souls, stuck beings, stuck energies, stuck objects in this landscape. Sending them all through the portal or vortex of light. Calling any stuck ancestor, telling them it's time to leave the shadows of this world, it's time to move into the light. There is no punishment, there is only love and support for you on your journey, your soul's journey of evolution. This is an opportunity for many stuck souls on the bloodline to be released back to the light. On the other side of the doorway, many angels holding them and leading them to temples of healing. And while that's happening, let's call solar angels to enter the landscape. To begin clearing old energies and issues the bloodline may be holding. Dense beliefs, stories, programs such as I'm flawed, unlovable, not deserving of love, I'm not enough, not worthy enough, not attractive enough, not allowed to be happy or fulfilled. The fear of being vulnerable or taking a risk in love. Fear of being hurt. Fear of being betrayed, jilted, or abandoned. The belief or fear that love does not last, that love will end in tears. The belief or story that I cannot be happy without a partner. And a very deep belief that I have been abandoned by God, Goddess, or what it is. Falling now on solar angels from the sun, clearing any lower energies relating to abandonment, betrayal, heartbreak, ancestral unhappy marriages, ancestral unwanted pregnancies, programs of unfaithfulness, or guilt or shame, old patterns of frustration, not being with a person that was truly loved, perhaps programs of a loss of a romantic partner through war or disease or some other misfortune. The program of feeling sexually incompatible with the person you're with. Ancestral narcissism. The energy of fearing the person you're with. Programs of helplessness, powerlessness. Ancient oppressive duty. Programs of sexual perversion or incest in the bloodlines. Program of unforgiveness. Violence in any marriage or cruelty in any marriage in the bloodline. Sacrifice. Martyrhood. Feeling that partnership or marriage is a service, a duty. Old religious programs, including the belief that the flesh is sinful. calling on solar angels to clear all of this, including any ancestral beliefs or judgments connected to cultural, racial, or gender stereotypes. Calling on all solar angels to clear all of these old programs out of the landscape. Seeing them disappear through the portal. Or out, perhaps into the sky and beyond, releasing to the light of the sun. Inviting solar angels to clear all programs of black magic and curses in the bloodlines relating to heartbreak and the blocking of love or the limiting of love. Just allowing solar angels to clear all of these old programs in the landscape. You may see them as old clouds of energy or mists of energy that are dissipating, releasing. As the solar angels work, you may see a brilliant light in this landscape, clearing and cleansing, uplifting the whole landscape. When you're ready, closing the portal of light, asking Metatron, Sandford, Michael, and Azrael to close that portal of light. Allowing the solar angels to step back. Let's invite the angels holding the energy of wild rose, wild white rose, into the landscape. Beginning to transmit this energy into the landscape. uplifting the landscape with this energy, this beautiful energy. Also the energy of rose quartz crystal. The angels holding rose quartz crystal into the landscape. Beginning to channel light into any void spaces. Going deep into the earth, filling the earth with light. Finally, a call to the deep ancestors who are beyond all pain and suffering to enter the landscape. Releasing all old, lower 3D energies, allowing for the deeper ancestors, those who exist in 5D and beyond, to come into the landscape. They come to restore a higher frequency of love and joy to the bloodline. Expanding the sense of safety, stability, connection, color, warmth, abundance, and fertility in this landscape. Expanding the light. also let's invite angels of love. Expand the energy of love in this landscape. Dissolving all blocks to love. And just notice the landscape becoming brighter, lighter, more stable, more solid, more beautiful. Let's ask the angels of love to set the transmission back in time. Healing old programs of pain and limitation in the bloodline. Sending that transmission back into time. Back through generations and generations. Releasing what can be released. Opening what can be opened. For me, when learning about the phrasing of Anunnaki many years ago, for me, I had to read Zachariah Sitchin's work. Wrote a number of books, and he was a leading person who came forward with this theory that the Anunnaki were some type of people that came from another civilization, another world to our planet. And really, it was his work that really took it forward throughout the whole world.
Look, of course, with Sitchin's work, a lot of it is theorising because he's trying to interpret the text the best that he can with what they're able to understand and with the level of consciousness he's trying to understand. So, in some way, you've got to look at both sides. You've got to try and connect the dots as well as look at the evidence. And I think he's spot on with some things, but some things he's it's not as well. And that's like, I think with all of this, we're just trying to do the best we can with the knowledge that we've got.
It's theorized that the Anunnaki, an advanced civilization, came here to Earth, and we were here to mine, principally to mine gold. Because the stories have it, if we were to believe it to be true, was that they were to mine gold because their ionosphere, should we say, around their planet had diminished, and they wanted to replace that with gold, particles of gold and dust. Now, what is really interesting is that that concept doesn't actually work. The concept of providing gold in a dust format around the ionosphere of an Earth or planet like Earth would actually bounce radiation back. This is why NASA used gold sheeting around a lot of the landers. You'll see that on the moon lander and the Mars lander. They tend to use a lot of gold sheet paper. It's like aluminium foil, but it's gold. And that, because the reason you're using that is because it radiates all that radiation back, it pushes it away so that it protects it from contamination in space. It's a perfect compound. And it is interesting that even just that theory, I mean, how would an ancient civilization even know that gold would work for that, even if it wasn't true? So you have to question, where does that knowledge even come from?
This has been a source of some confusion for me personally. I can't quite make sense of this. If the Anunnaki, as I understand, are a highly advanced technological race, very ancient, much older than we are, they have the means to get here from goodness knows where across the galaxy, then they don't need slaves to do their mining for them. They would have giant machines. These machines are far more effective than people. You don't have to go through this long, complicated process of bioengineering the local people to do your work for them, and they could probably create robots that would do it.
When you go into these ancient sites, when the tombs were raided in Egypt, we found that representations of statuettes and things like that of godly figures, always gold. Always gold. But the Egyptians had also had the capabilities of electroplating. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. We know that in Baghdad, they created batteries for electroplating. They knew that they could get away, they could trick people thinking this was a solid gold item when it was in fact gold covered. So the representation of something significant, because it's gold coloured, carried through, not just locally but all around the world. They all kind of had the same idea. Where did it come from? Why was it not nickel? Why was it not iron? Why gold? And of course that seems to go all the way back to the Sumerians and how the importance of gold. We still live in a society where gold is important.
Well, as far as Sitchin's work, I've read some of his work, but most of my information comes straight from the beings of that time, so I go by that. But it's very interesting. It does seem that there was a major intervention, quite a few, 450,000 years ago. The Anunnaki came here. They were looking for gold, and both for health reasons and to save their planet, supposedly. I really don't think they're returning on Nibiru because they've been here all along. They've been waiting for the right time to appear. They actually came from ancient Lyra. So the Anunnaki, their origins come from ancient Lyra. And they're the bearded gods that we've heard about and read about, and almost every religion is based on this image of the bearded god. They even moved to Greece and became the Greek gods. And so whenever you have the bearded god, the stories about the bearded gods, it goes back to the Anunnaki.
Well, all I could say is in 2008, because of being featured on the History Channel, they flew me to Boston. They have my blood. Have you heard of Executive Order 14067? Most people probably haven't, but it could completely upend American medical work done by a Harvard professor. His name was David Sisko, and it was revealed in that show that I don't have normal human blood. I know that sounds strange, but this led to Bill Burns, the host of UFO Hunters. He said, I think you guys are being prepared by a secret group behind the scenes helping you process what's happening to you, and you'll be given a course of study to help you put all these pieces together. Well, that happened in reality in the middle of 2008, and I came in contact with a group called the Light Physics Group, who was led by a gentleman named A.R. Borden. First thing that they did was supply me with a whole library of Zecharia Sitchin's work. And they said, in their own words, that he was more accurate than he even knew. And these people that are high echelons of the NSA, they have access to ancient manuscripts and whatnot that we don't. So I take a lot of faith in their own testimony, but in my own contact with these beings, they're the ones that introduced themselves to me in the summer of 2008, and they said we've been known in the past as the Anunnaki. Because even I know a lot of people try to argue the point that Anunnaki isn't what Zecharia Sitchin says it is. Well, I can tell you, I met them face to face, and they said we've been known as the Anunnaki. So it gives me a little bit of confidence behind his work, and I'm a fan. I'll just leave it at that.
The Earth's been colonized again and again. Some of the first colonies were the Anunnaki. There was actually an Andromedan colony here for a little while. The Naztec Alliance are part of that experience. The Pleiadian colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria or Mu, those are Pleiadian colonies. So the Earth's been colonized repeatedly over and over again. And people have had to start over as primitives due to wars and meteor strikes and pole shifts and things of that nature. So this has been going on for a long time.
His principles were that there was another planet which they came from, and the transition of this planet came close to Earth every so many thousand years. And at that time, they visited Earth and maybe will visit again in the near future.
The Planet X has been something that's been going on for 100 years. Astronomers have been seeking this planet, either as a brown dwarf or something much smaller, the discovery of Pluto, for instance, was down the search for something much bigger, because evidence in the outer solar system suggests that something is out there. So you have these two strands. You have the mythological strand, which Sitchin puts forward to try and explain a lot of the sort of cosmology that was created by ancient myths. And you also have science, and the two, in my opinion, seem to be converging, and that convergence of ideas comes together in the Star theory. A month ago, a new discovery of one of these Kuiper objects has created this excitement within the astrophysical community that as they say, a planet 10 times the size of Earth might exist beyond that zone. And of course, a planet of that size would fit what Zecharia Sitchin would have classified as Nibiru. So when you describe Nibiru, I tend to think of it in terms of the appearance of the planet in the sky, but it could be or the dark star system itself, from which the Anunnaki visit us.
Where they do come from, sources that I've spoken to who knew about the Anunnaki in some detail, with personal acquaintance, personal witness, they never described where the Anunnaki really did come from. It's possible that they did not know. It is possible that this is not, we don't know that.
Well, yeah, in the Bible it says that man was created in the image and likeness of God, and they should have said gods, because the genetic tampering, there was a Neanderthal man, a knuckle dragger that was here, and more primitive man, and the Anunnaki added their genes to that to create a race to help them with their mining operations, because it was about self-preservation. And it was a win-win situation, because the knuckle dragger got this huge jump in genetics and evolution, and they're very grateful for this, and so it wasn't.
Watch this short presentation until the end for details on how to get started in less than 7 minutes.
So as bad as, a lot of victims want to call it a slave species and things like that. It's not typically that. It depends on which Anunnaki you're talking to, because Enki, who was involved in all this, loved his creations, and he saw them, almost as family, as his children in a way. And you had Enlil, who was the general. He was the warring guy, and he wanted to see Enki's creations totally obliterated in the experiment, cleaned up, so to speak. So it all depends on which reference point you're looking at as to the behavior of these gods and the reference points of the people that experience that behavior.
Even though a lot of people say we're created as slave labor, which is in one way true because we were created to help them, but we were more like pampered pets. That there was no homeless, there was no starvation. We were truly living in Eden, and because of this, we were stagnant and we weren't evolving at a quick enough rate to make us the most prepared we could be at the end of this cycle. So it was decided that they would help us evolve in a spiritual way, which is helping us evolve faster, which they understand that thoughts create reality. So we were made to experience our own thoughts in an accelerated fashion. You can look at it as duality or free will even, because free will is really only the option to choose what is not divine will. The Inky's mother side said, well, you can't just do this to a race that has never been tried before unless you're willing to go through it yourself. So the truth of the matter was, when they tried to incarnate into the human vessel, they had too much energy and they would spontaneously combust. So they needed to create a bloodline here, a hybrid bloodline that had more chi, more life force energy available at a cellular level. So this is when it gets into what the History Channel revealed through the Harvard professor is normal amounts of creatine kinase in the blood, which all of us, our brains release this, is about 25 parts per liter of blood, and it'll jump up to about 250 to 300 tops if there's been damage, and that happens because the brain releases creatine kinase to bring oxygen to facilitate healing to that wounded area. Well, what I found out from insiders is the amount of oxygen in the bloodstream equals how much electrical capacitance on a cellular level that your body is holding. So you can look at that as there's more chi or electricity available at a cellular level. So then they had a suitable vessel that they could incarnate into, and that was the Nephilim. So that's why the Nephilim was created. It was all part of the plan to help save humanity from the last deluge, and which is a whole different telling of what has been given to humanity. Everything's been slanted in fear, They said the Nephilim were these people going around, and no, it actually said these in the Bible. It said these were the men of renown that people that did great things and helped humanity. They're truly just the human vessel that they can incarnate into to try to help from the inside.
Scientists coming forward and really scrutinizing as to where we come from. Those two big questions. How did we get here? Where did we come from? Well, that's a real big question mark. And unfortunately, not many people have really got the answers. So we've all got all these theories and different things, but we do know science battling religion now. That it wasn't simply the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. Unless Adam and Eve represents places like Adam and Avalon and places like that. Because this is what you have to do with scriptures and biblical notes, is that you've got to read in between the lines and see and kind of understand what are they trying to explain.
Now, my understanding is that, again, we're a mixture of many races from the start of the Star Nation, and this goes back long before 6,000 years. We're looking at probably 500,000 years, and I believe even before that. So, what level was humanity at the time? It depends on which area of the earth we come to. Now, we see the cradle of civilization being Iraq, but we've got evidence now that man started a lot further before that here in Australia.
Imagine what would happen if every person in the United States suddenly visited your website. Would it crash?
And again, we've got Hebrew markings and things being found in America that predate the Hebrew stuff we know about in the Middle East and that area. So this is where the knowledge is still being found today, but I believe that humanity's been at different stages because there's been different experiments go on. So it's almost like, from my understanding, what the beings have said to me is that we're continuing the upgrade of the genetics because we're intermingling and interbreeding today here on Earth. So us, unknowingly, are continuing the experiment. And we're basically, from my understanding, what I've been told is that we're making a super race in the 3D realm, a superhuman race, which is all the Star Nations combined to create this body computer you to discover many abilities that even those other beings that help create us do not have themselves.
So in ancient times, the Anunnaki did have sexual relationships with the humans, and the humans were already hybrids, and so they were jumped up, and there was more manipulation that went in the atom cap and seed, all that stuff. They're very beautiful beings, and the Anunnaki did saw the Earth human to be fair and took them as wives, as talked about in ancient times. And they created the demigods, which were actually half Anunnaki, half human. And so it was kind of like they're already hybrided up to a very high place, and then they took them as wives, and they created the next level up. So these beings were very powerful because the human genome added to the Anunnaki genome created the demigods, which actually, some of them actually rose in evolution further than the Anunnaki. There's something that happens with that connection, or that splicing of the two. What's interesting is that Enki actually mated with an Earth human and had a son called Noah, that we know about in the Bible. Noah, when he was born, had white hair. He was glowing. The parents didn't know what to do with him. And so he actually transcended and went further in evolution than Enlil, who was the general warring god. And so there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of anger about that situation. And thus you have the story of floods and things like that.
Well, I think this is a really fascinating subject because I think there's been a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of people say that the Anunnaki caused the flood, or in the Bible that God caused the flood to wipe out, the people who were heathens or whatever. That's not what the Sumerian clay tablets say at all. And if anyone attributes the flood as a direct result of Anunnaki influence, then they haven't read Sitchin's work, because that's not what it says. What it said was the Anunnaki scientists seen that there was going to be a pole shift in the near future, and this was a natural cyclical process that happens on the Earth over and over and over. It's happened many times in the past, it'll happen many times in the future. So they realized that this was going to happen, which Enlil, who was in charge at the time, he did allow it to happen. He said, well, even then, they're like, well, we don't have the technology to lift off 400 million human beings who are on the planet at that time, so it must be God's will, and we'll just let them perish. Well, one of them didn't sit well, and that was his brother, older brother, Enki, because Enki looked at humanity as family.
Yeah, the Family Feud story goes way back, and it goes back to Enki and Enlil, and they had a lot of differences of opinion. And again, Enlil was the warring god, and he was the general, and there was a lot of kind of turf wars going on that happened here on Earth. And some of the people went back, and some of the Anunnaki went back. The ones that stayed here for too long couldn't go back because they started aging very rapidly. Something happens if they stayed here too long. So, it's still happening to this day. These same turf wars are still going on. And it's probably where war originated.
It would seem to be warring. I mean, if you look at the Vimana, the Indian scriptures, it talks about a huge war that took place. If you talk about biblical, the Bible that we know, go right back to the beginning. It starts off, there was war in the heavens. What does that actually mean? You go back to Mesopotamia and other places around the world. They talk about the same thing. They talk about the gods warring. And it does seem to show some evidence on the planet of ancient locations which seem to show that there is nuclear radiation there. Some type of radiation that is a manufactured radiation, doesn't seem to be natural. As if a nuclear bomb had gone off 50,000 years ago. It just doesn't make any sense. We're faced with all these issues today and asking, what is all that mean? What kind of makes sense of it all? It's such a difference.
How to kill all mosquitoes in the area in 90 seconds? This simple but brilliant trick you can do tonight to
difficult job. For one thing, one commonality right through it all is that there seems to be some type of war in heaven. That these parties were warring against factions, were warring against each other. Technological battles, because it's been described in biblical books and scriptures, even the Indian Vimana scriptures. It talks and shows images, paintings of these objects firing at each other, and rockets and all sorts of things. If we try to put it into our modern day concept, we could say there were warring factions, as there are warring factions on the earth. However, it would seem that it was worth battling over. Maybe humanity, maybe the earth. Maybe that was to win. And at the end of the day, I would think that most of the scholars now are starting to question the factors as to what's that all kind of mean, where we're actually all coming from.
See, this gets into a deep subject because people need to understand. Enki himself, he was the firstborn son of the king of the Anunnaki, and his name was Anu. But Anu had a concubine, a female that was not of the Anunnaki race. So for the first time ever in their family history tree, new blood came into the Anunnaki family tree. And so what happened was, during this time of Enlil, going to allow the pole shift to happen because they figured it was just God's will, Enki went against their own counsel, went to his mother's side, the elders, and asked, isn't there anything that can be done? You know, my race is going to let this beautiful race that has so much potential just perish. And this all became the Noah's flood myth. You know, you'll find out that most of the stories in the Bible are actually retellings of the Sumerian clay tablets, but they're just in more detail.
Some of the Anunnaki are here to help humanity. And at the same time, some of them are here to disrupt things and keep this energy, this vibration of negativity here for them to exist in the state, because they don't want to evolve. Some of the Anunnaki, they want to stay in the state that they're in. Some of them want to keep on evolving like they have, and they've gone to the geometric light realms. Some of them are coming down, gleaning human genetics of this body computer, what's here on Earth at this time that we are continuing to create, because it's got abilities and things that it can do that they cannot do. So they're trying to get that as well, but they do want to see enlightenment. And basically what's going on here is that a lot of souls have incarnated in the human body computer here to be like an antivirus to the virus that was placed here, which was done by the negative Anunnaki reptilians, to get rid of that so the rest of the universe can continue and grow and evolve, because things are at a standstill or being manipulated. But again, it's something that soars consciousness, universal consciousness, has done to itself to help us go to the next level. Because like Albert Einstein says, you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. You've got to get outside of it. So we've got to go to a different level of consciousness. And that's what I believe we have done as a collective, is we've created all this to take us to the next level.
The Anunnaki have continued. You had the fallen Anunnaki, and then you had the Council of 12, which actually never, if they came to Earth, they came for a very short period of time and went back. And they operate under universal law. They're very benevolent. They're very powerful beings, very loving. Most are six-dimensional beings. Some are actually nine-dimensional beings. The fallen Anunnaki, some of them are okay. They're just kind of hanging out business as usual, and they are very wise and powerful beings. They're still here on Earth. And then there's the fallen Anunnaki that have taken up very high positions and continued with the wars and the divisions and the capitalizing at the expense of humanity, the Earth, and things like that, because they have no respect for humanity. They think they're superior. But the good news is the fallen Anunnaki are being pulled before the councils by the benevolent ones, and they're having to explain why they've strayed away from universal law, and they're going to have to come to terms with the deeds of the past and what they've done.
The Anunnaki craft, this was a story told to us by Henry Deacon, and again, we were given to understand that he knew that their adherence to ceremony and tradition and appearance and symbolism, lots of things like that we see all around us, extended to their craft. Now, for reasons to do with advanced physics, it seems that craft that are traversing time and space need to be circular. Somewhere they need to be disc-shaped. It's got something to do with electromagnetics. I would not be the right person to ask, but we hear over and over again that there's a shape that is essential for the operation of this craft. You can't kind of bolt things onto it, for example. Then they don't work. But in the Anunnaki craft had ornamental additions to them, ornamental appendages. They had these giant wings, which weren't functional. They didn't have any purpose, but they were ornate, they were ornamental, they were traditional. It was important for them culturally that these wings were there, like the Roman winged chariots. Those wings didn't do anything either. But the wings on these craft seem to be a feature.
Well, it's interesting because
If you've ever dealt with a hanging belly, love handles, or flabby arms, then this discovery could save your life.
some of the crafts that I've seen are very massive and they're golden ships. And one time I was on the Art Bill show, and they asked me who was on these big golden ships, and I said, I don't know, but they feel like God beings to me. And so when they did reverse speech on me, I said Sailor Vishnu is his name. So the ancient Vedic scriptures describe these ships, and it depends. You know, some ships were physical, some ships were just pure energy, some were magnetized light ships, and some ships were Merkabahs. Some of the Anunnaki actually travel as a Merkabah. They can just appear wherever they want to. They don't really need a ship. They do have ships that are magnetized light ships. The ones I've seen are golden ships. As far as the other bigger ships that they have, I haven't really looked into that, but I have seen ships that are just massive. They're like total ecosystems, and they're very, very beautiful ships. And I've seen some ships that were just designed for, basically, there's ships that are designed for war. There's ships that are designed for exploratory. There's ships that are designed as ecosystems. So there's all kinds of different ships out there. It's hard to pigeonhole, because most of them are working as a collective.
I've filmed a lot of crafts, UFOs that people would call, and some of them have been, the Anunnaki, Elohim, some have been other factions, the Orions, the Asian Syrians mainly. But a lot of the crafts are light, as people can see from the footage I've filmed. Also, some of them are organic, usually the white type ones, the organic type of ones as well. Day, night, doesn't matter. I've had lots of witnesses, a few hundred witnesses now experience the crafts with me during the day and at night, so it doesn't matter. But they come through more to show a presence, and there's always a telepathy download components going on with the people having the experience with me at the time, or even myself when these things are going on. So, people say, why don't they just show up? Well, they're showing up in mass around the world right now. We're seeing it in Mexico, we're seeing it in America, we're seeing it in Australia, we're seeing it in Asia, we're seeing it all around the world right now. So, I've got lots of evidence and footage, and again, it's up to people to make up their own mind, but they are showing themselves at the moment, and we're seeing it more and more. And people really need to take notice of their thoughts and what's coming through, because this is how they communicate.
Karen Hudis, the World Bank whistleblower, has stated on record that she is in contact with people who seriously believe that there is what she called a second species on this planet. She said these are the coneheads, these are the tall coneheads. And she says that every now and then they turn up to meetings, they've been seen, they're known about them, they keep themselves pretty much hidden because they look fairly human but not completely human. And they seem to have a hand in world affairs somewhere back there. And so I just mention that because here is some circumstantial evidence coming from an unlikely source. She's talking about what might be the same thing. It may be that these beings are around. They're not showing themselves publicly. They're not walking the streets, but they do attend certain meetings of government officials. They do seem to be stakeholders, maybe in how this planet is run, what the future of this planet may be. They do seem to be here still, just as heavily concerned.
The Anunnaki bloodline is what some call, maybe the royal bloodline. Now, if we go from the ancient Sumer to the time of Rome, then throughout the Roman Empire up to Northern Europe, and then we go from there to the Americas, throughout Asia, throughout Africa and India and down. this has been a rumor the bloodline has been distributed throughout the world, and those with the bloodline have been in power. Again, I think what's happening is there's been a corruption of the bloodline. There was and is the Anunnaki bloodline, but then there's been reptilian influence that came back maybe 15,000 years ago or a little bit more, which is when the reptilian part of the brain was introduced to the human brain. And from there, the reptilians were able to manipulate and give traits in some way to the human race, which has sort of made up this control blueprint over humanity. In saying that, what many people don't understand is that the Archons once were the Anunnaki Elohim, and they offshooted in a different direction rather than from service mode to self-service mode, and they evolved down a different path, and then they've overshadowed reptilians as well, from my understanding, and this is where they've used reptilians because they're closer to this vibration now, to use them as a manipulation device on humanity to do things that they've done.
But basically, the good news is the benevolent Anunnaki are returning, and there's an alliance with the Pleiadians, who are the original Earth terraformers here. They did a lot of work on the Earth to bring it back and create an Eden, which was the original intent.
I think we all deserve the truth of our own past. Who is anyone on this planet to say that they're going to decide for you what you know and don't know? Well, who are they to make that choice for you or I never gave them that power over me. I think just put the pieces out where they may. Let's unveil human history. Like I was telling you, I think before we did this, they know using ground penetrating radar, most of what's under the sands in Egypt is still there. Because there's pyramids that dwarf the ones in Egypt that we've not even unearthed yet. So, obviously, we didn't create those monuments. People are getting hip to the fact that we didn't create the pyramids in Giza. There's just too much,
PD Tick's Labor Weekend sale is on now, with crazy deals on heaps of your favorite tech products.
Sophistication of knowledge of things that we couldn't have known encoded into them. So, why it's been withheld, I don't know.
Anyone who lies to you is trying to control you in some way. They're trying to keep you in a box. We're lied to about an enormous number of things, really, not just our origins. And the total effect of this collective bundle of lies is to disempower us. We're told that we're animated hunks of meat. We're not told about our true spiritual heritage. We're not told that we reincarnate. This is something that the elitists, the powerful people, globalists, whatever you want to call them, they know all these things. They have done for a long time. We're not permitted to because it disempowers us.
Well, the original war, the turf wars between Inca and Enlil, are still going on today, whether it's the same groups in charge of them, the consciousness is still there, and the actions are still there. So it's the same old program. It's all, it's all warring over power and wealth and power over others and all this other nonsense. And there's some that are saying, hey, it's like we're not going to settle for that. We want to be ourselves and we want to be free. And there's other people that are saying, no, you don't do what we say. We're easy, we're in control of everything else. And people are taking the second path. They want to control and dominate everybody. That has a frequency to it. Tyranny has a frequency to it. They're not frequencies specific to the Earth, the evolution of Earth, so they're not going to continue, with this program. So their timeline is over and their process is over. Like the Hopi prophecies talk about those that go and try to use technology to control and dominate and spy on others and everything else, or they're doing actions that are harmful to humanity. Or that timeline starts on a downward spiral and collapses. And those who want to live in harmony with each other and nature and choose a spiritual